All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Sideline. I'm Asher Heyer, joined with,
Richie Oza. Hello. Switching it up this time.
yeah, there you go, a little switch up. And we are here with obviously an NBA draft episode. It happened last night. Nuggets had three picks, which was pretty surprising. Early on in the offseason, I don't think we ever foresaw us even having a first round pick. Um, and they were all around the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. First pick, Julian Strother out of Gonzaga, a junior, which was kind of a theme in this year's draft. Two seniors, one junior being picked. Strother, I mean, I like him, a great spot up shooter. That's basically his calling card. He can shoot from any angle. He can shoot from anywhere. He's got great distance on his shot. Um, and so I like the pick. I'll get into it a little more, but what were your initial thoughts when you heard Strother's name called?
Yeah, I mean there were a ton of guys that I was looking at for that 29 spot for Denver. Strother was definitely one of them. My main guy was probably Colby Jones, as I think was for a decent amount of people on Nuggets Twitter. But Strother is definitely a good like I that's an A grade pick for me. It definitely seemed like last year Calvin Booth and the front office, their vision for those draftees was defense with Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Ishmael Kamagate. This year was offense. They went in like the complete different direction. Now, I think Strother can be a good defender because he is athletic and he is long. And he's going to be asked to do different roles in Denver than what he was asked to do at Gonzaga. But I really like it. I think you look at that bench, you look at the free agency moves and decisions that they're going to have to make. They need a shooter and they need offense with that bench, and that's exactly what Strauss is going to be able to come in and do. This is kind of the Christian Brown pick, where this he's the player who you can look at right now and say, okay, if things go poorly, he's the young guy who can come in and play immediately. Or if he impresses in preseason and summer league, he's going to be in that rotation right away, depending on what happens in free agency. So I really like this pick. I think this was a home run. I think this was a good start to the draft.
Yeah, it's been growing on me more and more as I start to look into him. Like I just think his potential playing next to Jokic is great. If Murray needs a rest or KCP needs a rest, and he comes in and plays with Jokic, like he's terrific off the ball. His movement is great. He
Yeah,
knows how to get open, which is huge when you're playing with the Nuggets. And he's shown off that he can cut to the rim also. With how deadly his 3 point shot is, teams especially early on are going to be trying to force him into making passes or driving to the rim. So we'll see if he can adjust to that, much like how MPJ has adjusted. Um, but he can get to his floater around the basket also. He likes
mm-hmm.
going to that, I feel like, more than trying to lay it up and driving into contact. And he's pretty efficient with it too. I feel like at the rim, I saw it's like a 70% percentile that he finishes at the rim with points per possession. His catch and shoot 3 pointer, by the way, in college was in the 99th percentile.
Yeah.
Um,
He's offensively he's very very good. And he fits really well. That off ball movement was key. He's a great cutter, and that floater is like a legit weapon for him. Like that was his second shot that he went to.
yeah.
Um, so like the finishing through contact thing is probably going to be the issue, I guess, for him if you want to nitpick his game. But I mean, he's 29th pick. He's going to have his issues. Um, but I think when you look at especially playing with Jokic, he fits perfectly with the shooting, the off-ball movement, the fact that he can at least make some plays on his own attacking closeouts. Like I feel like for Christian Brown, we saw it a little bit towards the end of the season when players were out and he was kind of just doing it. But like at Kansas, he was much more of a scorer. Like he was a guy who got to the rim and shot jumpers and looked to attack the basket. But he completely changed his role, and then you saw it a little bit more when he was starting. And I feel like we might see something similar with Strother. Like he was very much a scorer first guy, but now he's gonna have to pivot to defense. He's gonna have to pivot to just taking spot up shots, being content with 3, 4 shots a game. But I like it in terms of if he's able to fit into that role, is a perfect piece.
Yeah. I also feel like a trait in Booth that he's targeted with Christian Brown last year, and then all three of these guys, like he's going for rebounding. I think maybe with him being a big man, he knows how important rebounding is because to finish off a good defensive possession, you got to rebound. And with how good the Nuggets offense is, like offensive rebounding for the other team is key to try to get extra possession. So even if these guys can't really defend, we'll get into the other guys also because they're also particularly not very good individual defenders. But they're all great rebounders. I think Pickett averaged about 7.5 rebounds a game. Strother averaged about 6, and then Hunter Tyson was like 9.8, up
Yeah, he
near
was a
10.
double double for like 2 straight
Yeah,
seasons almost.
yeah. So finishing off defensive possessions is super important. And then Christian Brown was a great rebounder also. Seems like Strother also has like a knack, I guess, for the clutch. Also, he made those big shots in March Madness. There are a bunch of other clutch games he had during the regular season. So it seems like he finds himself in those moments to take the shot. And
Hmm.
he's ready. And as I said, he can shoot from literally anywhere on the floor. Like his shooting, he might be the best shooter in this draft class, like with how many angles. And there's one crazy shot I saw where he like, I mean, his release is like a little flick. It's so lightning quick.
He's so fast. He gets his feet set so quickly,
Yeah.
and
There's
he
one where
gets
he
on balance so quick.
there's one where he just caught the ball like pretty deep out. Um and just fired it up there with the defender like right in his face and basically got tackled and it was like a 4 point play. Um and that was just super impressive shot. A low release. That's probably how he can get his shot off so quickly. It really is just like a like half a second just flick up to the rim, and sometimes it doesn't even look like he's just aiming. He's like throwing it up there, but um, it goes in, and that's a great trait to have, especially in the NBA where defenders are flying all over, and you're gonna have Victor Wembanyama who can guard the rim and the 3 point line like at the same time. So
Yeah,
getting a shot off quickly is pretty important. So yeah, overall, I like that pick a lot for the Nuggets. It is interesting though that he's not very developed on defense. Um, and
yeah,
Pickett, if we want to get into him also on defense, I guess just like not great point of attack, but he does have length, which I think is he can turn into a good defender.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but right
That's
now
been the theme.
struggles. Yeah,
Oh,
he
keep
just
going.
struggles to get around screens, which is what I saw from this one video I watched.
Yeah, that's been the theme for Calvin Booth through 2 drafts is just length and intangibles and just like measurements. So in case they aren't great defenders now, at the very least they can turn into good ones. Like they have the ability to be not played off the floor. I feel like that's more possible for Pickett and Strother than it is for Hunter Tyson,
Yeah,
because Pickett and Strother are way more athletic than he is. Uh, but yeah, Pickett's intriguing. He's an interesting guy because he's not like he's a scorer, but he's not a shooter. Like he shot, I think 38% from three, in his last season at Penn State, but it was only on like 3 or 4 attempts a game. It
it's
wasn't
not
on a
like
ton of volume.
creative like at times. It's usually just like
No,
wide open type shots
yeah,
or
which like those are the type of shots he's gonna get in the
yeah,
NBA from three anyway. But his game is like just straight go to the rim. Like he really likes to get to the basket, and finish around the rim. He's got great like he's great improvisation around the rim. He finishes through contact really well. Like that was the issue with Strother is that he can't like he goes to the floater a lot. He shies away from contact at the rim. Pickett is the complete opposite. He wants the contact. So it's a good balance there. And yeah, like he's 6'4", but he averaged over 7 rebounds a game his last season, which is really impressive. Very similar to how Christian Brown attacks. But Christian Brown is, I don't know. I'm trying to like compare these to how they would fit into the Christian Brown mold, but like that was I don't think that they could have picked someone more perfect than Brown for the role that he played.
Right.
Like he did everything they needed him to in year one.
Right. Yeah. I think these guys are a little different. Like
Yeah,
Pickett's smaller, and he's more of like an on-ball guy. Like
yeah,
he does not have much experience off the ball. I think even like at Siena or wherever he played, Sierra or
yeah.
something.
Sienna.
Yeah, Siena, like he averaged almost a triple double there, and he almost, I mean, he was like 17, 7, and 7 at Penn State. He
Hmm.
always had the ball in his hands, super great in the pick and roll. This is where I think like maybe out of all three of these guys, maybe Pickett plays first. Um, like cracks into the rotation first out of them. Uh, because the Nuggets, have a little question at backup point guard, especially if Bruce Brown leaves. Like, do you keep Reggie Jackson and play him, or do you let Gillespie and Pickett battle it out and
Hmm.
see who can take that backup point guard spot? And I feel like Pickett, he is a rookie, but he's 24, so he's got kind of the
It's
experience,
experience.
and the toughness and the build or whatever to uh, be able to play right away. Um, and as a backup point guard, I think he's great. Like his playmaking is phenomenal. I mean, there are not many players who can pass like he can. He can throw any type of pass, like whether it's in the pick and roll, um, whether it's him driving to the rim and kicking it out or skip passes. Super strong on his passes, and he can throw them like across his body, kind of like Luca style.
Yeah,
When Luca's like driving to the rim and he'll fling it out to the 3-point line. Um, so I mean, and then yeah, his scoring type, as you said, like he'll back you down. He takes guards into the post, embraces the contact, and he's super smart around the rim, and has like a little mid range jumper, which like his shot and the way he gets to the rim reminds me a little bit of Shea, uh, or Shy. I'm kind of like forgetting how you say it. SGA.
yeah,
Um, and but he's shorter. SGA is probably like 6'6", 6'7". Pickett's like 6'2", but he gets to that mid range shot, and he gets into the post up,
yeah.
and
You
embraces
remind me
contact
of
much
like
more.
a bigger Andre Miller type,
Yeah,
like Andre Miller, Jalen Brunson type of
yeah,
hybrid, and
Brunson.
like if he gets to either of those levels, that is like a phenomenal value. That's not. I'm not saying that that's his like what he is right now, but that's his I think player comp because he just bullies you, backs you down, and he's able to get to the shot that he wants in the paint. How that's going to work in the NBA, I'm not really sure, but I mean, commanding bench units and doing that, I feel like it's definitely possible. Um, because I mean, you look at like I'm thinking, you look at the playoffs that Denver played last year. They didn't play a team with size and after Minnesota, really. Like, and I think that guys like Strother, guys like Hunter Tyson as well, like if he's able to figure out how to defend at the NBA level, and guys like Pickett would be able to play in series like those down the line because they just have size and because they're going to be able to just be bigger and just dominate using their size. Like that's what Christian Brown was able to do. That's what MPJ was able to do, and like obviously Aaron Gordon as well. But those are kind of different situations. Um, but I think that Denver knows what the mold that they want. Like they know what they're trying to build. And they picked three similar guys in this draft, and I think they're kind of just hoping for one or two of them to pan out because of the new CBA because they don't want to go over the second apron. Um, so yeah, but I'm interested to see how the roster is gonna look after free agency. Like that I don't know if concerned is the right word, but I'm like I don't know what the roster is gonna look like outside of
Yeah, I mean, there's a
free
lot of
agency.
guys, like especially at the end of the bench, who are like, DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green, Thomas Bryant,
Mm-hmm.
Ish Smith, all the veteran leadership are all free agents. So I wonder who they bring back, if any, out of that group. Um,
Yeah,
but and then obviously there's the Bruce Brown situation, which like seems like he's definitely, well, I mean, I wouldn't say definitely, but like probably like 80-20 chance he leaves. If you
yeah,
do re-sign him, then I feel like, you know, there's not much to solve. Like you pretty much just run it back with those guys. You got your first seven, and then we'll see like what happens with Flacco and Zeke. Um,
mm-hmm.
like I'm just hoping those guys can, play
get an
well enough to
opportunity.
crack into the rotation because that would be amazing to have Vlatko who I think can be such a good player with his shot and his playmaking and
Yeah,
his switchability on defense. Same with Zeke on defense. Like there's a lot of potential there. Um, so I mean, if
yeah.
those guys can figure it out, it makes things so much easier. But I honestly haven't really looked at free agents for the Nuggets or free agent possibilities. Um,
Targets. Yeah,
yeah,
like I'm just looking at the Nuggets depth chart right now, and this is why like I'm a little confused because, like you said, they're free agents. We obviously know about Bruce Brown, but Jeff Green, Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith, DeAndre Jordan, Thomas Bryant, all those guys are vets. DeAndre Jordan, Ish Smith, Jeff Green. Everybody has talked about how important those guys were in the locker room. Um, and you want to be able to bring back one or two of those guys, but with having three rookies on the roster, plus potentially Colin Gillespie, who like the Nuggets do really like if they didn't think that he had an opportunity to contribute this year, they would have cut him already uh, during the season. But this is what the depth chart is right now. Jamal Murray, at least like signed fully, like guaranteed. Jamal Murray at point guard, that's it. Contavious Caldwell Pope, Christian Brown at shooting guard, that's it. Small forward, MPJ, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother. I'm just saying Strother because he's a first round pick. Like he's going to be on a full contract. Um, Power forward, Aaron Gordon, Lako Chanchar. Center, Jokic and Zeke. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 players that they have under contract. They have 6 free agents, counting Gillespie and Jack White, and they have 3 two-way spots that potentially Gillespie and Tyson and Pickett could go into. Like, there's so many different ways that they could make this roster work. But if they sign Pickett and Tyson to the roster, that's 12 players. And then depending on what happens with Gillespie, let's just say they have 12 for now and they have one of Gillespie or Hunter Tyson on one of the two ways, which is probably what'll happen.
yeah,
That's 12 players. They can only bring back 3 guys. So if they bring back Bruce, then that's 13. You can only bring back 2 of the vets. And I feel like you would want guys who could play more. And I don't think DeAndre Jordan or Jeff Green should play any meaningful minutes next year to begin the year. So like I don't really know how to like say it. It's just like I don't know what they're gonna do with it because having 3 rookies on full-time contracts is gonna be hard. So
yeah,
and I do know that they like Gillespie and the point guard situation is weird. They could trade for somebody. If they bring Bruce Brown back, there's really no issue. But if they don't get Bruce Brown back, do they go with Gillespie as the backup one? Do they give Jalen Pickett a chance? Do they trade for DeLon Wright, Monte Morris, one of the 90 billion point guards that Washington has now? Like, I don't know. That's just my like. That was probably my biggest takeaway from the draft is like, what does it mean for Gillespie? What does it mean for the roster going forward for free agency? Because I didn't expect them to keep all 3 picks. Like, I expected them to trade 1 or 2 of them because I
yeah.
don't know how you're going to build a contending team with 3 rookies. So we just haven't
Right. I
seen it
feel like
happen.
Tyson would get one of the two-way spots, and then like we'll see. Like maybe someone shows a possibility that they could get another one in the summer league, like Jack White did and Adonis Arms almost did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
They
know,
signed a couple guys to exhibit 10s.
yeah, yeah,
Armand Franklin from
oh,
Virginia,
yeah, Virginia.
and then Andrew something,
I didn't see that one. I don't know.
Andrew something from Penn State. Hold on, let me.
Oh wow, another Penn State guy.
Andrew Funk.
Oh, okay, he's the shooter, white
Yeah,
guy.
shooter. He's really good shooter. 41% from 3 on 7.5 attempts.
Yeah,
Uh, in the
yeah,
Big
he's
Ten too. So
good.
like he's a good
Interesting
shooter.
that he picked. Yeah, there's definitely a Penn State connection here because Calvin Booth went to Penn State.
Yeah.
Picks Pickett, picks Funk. Um, and then yeah, Hunter Tyson was the last pick. Another great shooter, like same
Yeah.
attempts, pretty much same percentage as Strother, or better percentage than Strother, maybe. Um, Gets to his spots, knows how to get open off ball. Um, knows how to get to the corner in transition to get an open corner three, can rebound well, but he is a pretty terrible defender.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, like if he can get much better with his lack of athleticism. This is one guy where it's like I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can ever really be like a contributor, unless he really just finds some like niche role where he can just shoot and rebound and
Yeah.
just play like rotation defense without having to really stay in front of anybody. Um, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
about this one, but
Yeah, Hunter Tyson's weird. I am convinced they were gonna take Andre Jackson with pick 37, but he went pick 36. Andre
yeah,
Jackson was my like probably number two on my board. I loved him because of how good he was as an athlete and because of how good he is as a playmaker. I thought that he was the best bet in this draft to take over the Bruce Brown role if it got to that point. Um, but he went one pick before. I think he went either Orlando or Milwaukee. I don't remember. I think I think it's Milwaukee. I think Orlando traded 36. I think it's Milwaukee. Uh, but I
mm,
really wanted Andre Jackson. He was my like he was my like sleeper guy on who I think would be good. He is a pretty horrendous shooter and scorer, um, which is that's like the big knock on him. But he's an incredible. He's an elite defender. He's a really high level athlete. He's an exceptional playmaker. Um, but I don't know if they would have taken Pickett and Jackson in the same draft. I feel like the skills might have been a little redundant um, because of how good Pickett also is as a playmaker and the fact that Pickett can get his shot way better. But
yeah.
that's the pick that I think got away from it. But Hunter Tyson, I saw that Denver was like looking into him a few weeks ago. Um, yeah, I'm with you. Like I don't know if he'll ever get to the point where he's going to be able to be an average NBA defender and be able to keep himself on the floor. Um, maybe like with the right lineups for sure. Like if he's the four, if like
Yeah.
hypothetically Denver brings Bruce Brown back and he plays the four, you got a lineup of Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Hunter Tyson, and then Vlatko or Zeke or someone at the small ball five. Like that could work because everyone else has switchability. Like they can help and rotate off of him. And he would be the floor spacer. Like he'd have a role in there, but I don't know. That's it. It's interesting. It's that one's a weird one, but
Yeah, it is. Jordan Walsh went right after that pick,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I would have liked him on the team. Yeah, Andre Jackson went to the Bucks. So it was Orlando's pick, but going to Milwaukee. Um, just interesting, but overall, much different than last year's draft, as you opened up
mm,
with how all these guys, their specialties are offense and their negatives are defense, compared to Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, where it's the complete opposite. Um, but I like it. I guess I like the mix. Definitely like Strother. Definitely think Pickett is going to have a chance to fight for the backup point guard spot, and I honestly wouldn't mind to see him get a crack at it. We'll see him in summer league and see how he
yeah.
plays there.
Summer League's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a very
Yeah,
fun roster because I don't know if Christian Brown will play in it. I feel like he might because I mean he's a really good rookie, but he does need some work on his offensive game. I feel like Summer League could be a way for him to experiment some new things. But like you got Pickett for sure, you got Hunter Tyson for sure, you got Julian Strother. Hunter Tyson and Julian Strother are gonna have hilariously good summer leagues.
yeah.
Like I'm saying, Hunter Tyson, like I just crapped on him, but he is a summer league and G League player. Like he's gonna be able to shoot as much as he wants, and he's gonna make a ton of shots.
No, I could see him
Um,
averaging like 25 in the G League,
yeah, easily.
winning G League, All Star or whatever.
Yeah. But you got those guys. I think Kamagate might be coming over for summer league at least. At least it's what it sounded like, but I know he's not coming over for the season, so maybe he'll come next year or whatever. But you got those guys. Gillespie's definitely gonna play again. Um, you got Andrew Funk, you got Armand Franklin, a couple guys. Like this is gonna be a fun summer league roster. Last year was like so weird. Like it was Gillespie, Watson, Kamagate, and Brown,
Brown.
and that was really it. And Jack White kind of came out of nowhere to take the spot,
Yeah.
the second two way. But now you have two extra two ways, or one extra two way this season, um, which is very interesting for Denver. That gives them a lot more flexibility than they would have had with just two. Which is probably why I think that they reached on Tyson a little bit because they knew like, hey, we can just stick him on a two way and open up a spot for somebody else in
Hmm.
case we think about that.
I also wonder, like, I don't know, like with the CBA, I wonder if they like go with players who like maybe don't really have the potential to like earn a big contract somewhere else, like after their rookie deal is up, or like they're like solid role players, but not good enough to get to have to demand like huge money, but they are
Yeah,
good
like the
enough to like,
most the most they're gonna get is a full MLE or something.
yeah, exactly. Like they'll just be like the eighth man on a playoff team. Like that's how good every single one of these guys are.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe Calvin Booth just has figured it out. He's figured out the draft.
yeah, exactly. Just outsmarted everybody.
You
Um,
reach for a player because you know that they're not going to be good. That's the
exactly.
that's the
That's what I'm
galaxy
thinking.
brain.
Yeah. Um, anyways, that pretty much covers the draft for the Nuggets. There really wasn't, we were talking about it before the draft, like I mean before the uh podcast if we should do like we should talk about other teams. But honestly, like there wasn't.
There wasn't much. Like I thought, like I can't even like think about teams that had a good. I thought Houston had a good draft. Like getting Cam Whitmore at 20 because they were considering him at 4 and being able to get both Amen Thompson and him. I feel like that's a huge win. Charlotte, I don't know what they're thinking, taking Brandon Miller. Like I root for Brandon Miller to do good in Charlotte because of how the fans reacted, and I always want players who get booed on draft night to do well. It feels like they always do, except Kevin Knox, which is that's New
Yeah.
York, so that might be the one
Hmm.
exception. Um, but like I'm like Portland situation. There's a bunch of things that we can talk about later in the off season because of the
Right.
draft. Like what's Portland gonna do, what's New Orleans gonna do, what's Chicago gonna do. Like there's a ton of different things that happen through the draft that might mean things later down the line. But I mean, it was like a
Yeah.
pretty like normal draft. Like outside of Whitmore falling, there wasn't anything kind of crazy happening.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll just need to see like the off-season signings for these teams to really
yeah,
see what their plan was. Um, but yeah, I think like Jordan Hawkins to the Pelicans, I feel like he went pretty high compared to
yeah, he went. Yeah, he went kind of high.
I like the
Uh,
Hami Jaquez pick, honestly, even though he might have went a little high, but
mhm.
I
He
like it for
just
the Heat.
screams Miami Heat.
Oh yeah,
Like
he does.
he just screams dude you don't expect to do anything and then is in the playoff rotation year one as a rookie. Like
I think he's a
that
good player.
he's a
Uh,
good player. Yeah, like he has a ton of intangibles. And like his high school highlights are insane because he's like dunking on everybody, like doing
yeah.
windmills and 360s. Like it's really weird. But then you look at him in college and it's like this dude doesn't look like he can jump over a curb.
Yeah.
How did he do all that?
That's funny. So yeah, I mean we can move into the trades and stuff. We got 10 minutes to talk about. We haven't talked about the Bradley Beal trade, right?
No, we talked about the Beal one.
Okay, which
I think on Sunday we talked about
oh,
it.
yeah.
But the Porzingis and the Chris Paul trades we haven't talked about. We might have
Okay,
to start another session and get through both of
maybe.
them.
Um
But
yeah, I mean I
uh,
guess the Porzingis one first. Uh big trade that like happened like 5 times it felt like.
yeah,
They went like kept going back and forth. There was that trade with Marcus Morris and the Clippers, and then that fell apart. And then Memphis just swoops in out of nowhere and gets Marcus Smart, but they do have to get rid of Tyus Jones, um, who goes to Washington, Porzingis to
and two
Boston.
firsts.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we can start, I guess, with Boston side because they made the big move. I think this is a pretty good move for them. Obviously, they're betting on health because Porzingis hasn't stayed healthy for his
Yeah,
entire career, honestly. Um, and so he's got to be healthy, but yeah, you had to like make a change there because you can't just it seemed like Al Horford's age really started to show in the
it
playoffs. Like
really showed.
he was pretty
Yeah,
terrible in the Miami series. So I don't know if you can really run him out there again. The miles are starting to catch up to him. I think he's like 38-ish.
mhm,
Rob Williams is virtually always injured. And
yeah,
then outside of that, you got like Grant Williams, who's like a technically a big, but like they're
and he's
really
also a free agent. I don't. He might
yeah,
not come back either.
yeah. And there really wasn't anybody else big on that team. So now you get Porzingis, who I think is in his best version of a player. Like I think this is the best Porzingis version because he's learned how to back down in the post and take advantage of the mid range game and his height and everything. And he's still super good from three. So overall, Boston definitely gets better. They do have to get rid of their guy who's been there since 2014, I think.
Yeah,
So he's before Tatum, before Brown. All the Celtics fans love him. It would be like seeing it's like Gary Harris if Gary Harris had stayed on the team this long and then
yeah,
him leaving.
yeah.
Um, so it's kind of a situation like that, it feels like. But I think overall Boston did a pretty good job.
I think Boston did a great job with this. Um, like I Porzingis at this point in his career has become underrated. Like, yeah, he wasn't able to stay healthy, but this season he was. But he just got shut down because Washington stunk it up. Like they were just not good, so there's no reason to play him. But he played, I think, 65 games, and he would have played a lot more had they not gotten shut down. Um, but he was he was a great defender. He was one of the best defenders in pick and roll this season, one of the best drop defenders in terms of points per possession, and he was the best post up player in terms of points per possession in the entire NBA this season. So like he legitimately had a great season this year. Um, and yeah, I think he fits Boston perfectly. I really like that fit. He's a better defender than Horford is right now. Obviously, a better shooter, better all around player. I think him and Robert Williams should Williams stay healthy. I think uh, they fit together really well as an inside out big pairing with how well Porzingis is able to shoot it, and the fact that they both are incredible shot blockers, like, is gonna make that their paint is gonna be so hard to score in. Um, my only question is like who is gonna play point guard now? Because the reason why the Clippers part of the trade fell apart is because they weren't sold on Brogdon's medical. So and like the Clippers doctors are I don't know what they have with what has happened with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard the past 4 years and their decision on Michael Porter Jr. and like I don't know what they could be just dead wrong, but the fact that the medical reports were red flags enough for a team not go through with it, and now they're kind of banking on Brogdon being the starting point guard, either him or Derek White, but I would assume Brogdon because he can actually pass and play makeup a lot more. Uh,
Yeah, I
I don't
wonder
know
if they
how
like
that's gonna
re-sign.
work.
I wonder if they get Pritchard back, even though like he's requested a trade and all that.
Mm,
I wonder if they bring him back just for insurance because I like Pritchard. Um,
yeah,
he's a good playmaker and shooter and stuff. Seems like he does well in the big moments. So like I like him as the backup. I don't think I would start him.
no,
Um,
I wouldn't start him. Yeah, but like
Brogdon as the
that's the one
starter. I
position
don't
where
know.
I'm a little iffy about it. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
we'll
I
see how.
think Boston hit it out of the park.
Yeah, we'll see how serious Brogdon's injury is because if it is really like serious and he just like can't shoot anymore, like he couldn't in the playoffs, um, then that definitely poses a big like issue there at point guard. But if he can be the Malcolm Brogdon that we saw in the regular season, that's a perfectly capable
Yeah,
starting point guard.
yeah, yeah. It's not about Brogdon's ability. It's more about the injury. Like, what is he
Yeah.
gonna look like? If he's able to replicate what he did last year, they'll be fine.
Memphis brought in Marcus Smart. I gotta say, like, I like this for them. Obviously, they did have to get rid of two first rounders, but bringing in a guy who is definitely a leader into that locker room. Um, it seems like he'll just be able to keep their head straight. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not saying that like I disliked all the dancing and stuff like that, but I don't know. That's too young and too like inexperienced of a team to like do that and then just get waxed in the first round.
yeah,
Um, so bringing in a guy like Smart, who has played, I think, in like 118 playoff games or 108 playoff games, with the Celtics, which is insane.
yeah,
Um, like to bring his leadership and his experience into that locker room, I think is huge for them. Just one step because I feel like they still got to shore that up a little bit.
yeah.
Um,
No,
so
I
yeah,
really like that. I love the fit too. I mean, he is very
yeah,
much a Memphis player. Like his hustle, his mentality is going to be huge. Like it'll bring back the kind of grit and grind culture that made Memphis what it is. Um, but yeah, I wasn't really the biggest fan of getting rid of Tyus Jones because I not like with John Morant being suspended for almost a third of the season. Like I don't know how good of a playmaker Marcus Smart's going to be. And
he's definitely
Memphis's half
improved.
court offense was horrendous, both in the regular season and the playoffs. And Smart isn't going to help that. He might even make it worse, honestly. Like I love what he does on defense. I love his hustle and like he flops a ton and he can get a little annoying with the antics, but he is a great defender and he is a very good player and he shot well in the playoffs and like he's very streaky, but he is a good offensive player. But I don't know about how to feel about him as a lead playmaker, uh, especially with
Yeah,
Morant out for that long. But we'll see how it looks. I think with Morant there, I think that lineup fits pretty well. I wasn't the biggest fan of it when it happened, but thinking about it and like going through what they could look like when everybody's back, I think I think it's a good move. I like that. Like you said, they needed a grown up in the locker room. They needed just somebody there to keep everyone's head straight, which is crazy because if Steven Adams can't do that, like you really need some more help. But I think
yeah,
Marcus Smart's the perfect guy for that. The locker room aspect of it is so underrated. Like I think everyone saw it with Denver, like
right.
having vets there to keep everyone's eyes in the right direction. Uh, Being able to get a guy like Smart who has like I saw a graphic at SportsCenter put up like he has more like as much playoff success by himself than Memphis does as a franchise.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's definitely going to be able to bring some much needed experience.
All right, we are back. Rishi is a new revelation after watching some Jalen Pickett highlights.
Yeah.
He can play, man. Like he can be the backup point guard. I think you realized it now too.
I watched saw a highlight tape on Twitter, and like I mean, can't judge a player off the highlights.
Yeah,
It's not viable. But he's got way more shiftiness than I thought. Like I knew that he was a downhill player and he liked getting to the rim, but he's way more shiftier. Like you said, he really likes the mid range. Like he can really shoot the mid range jumper, but like I didn't think he had that much of it in him. And the fact that he's able to shoot the mid range so much gives you confidence that he can shoot the three at a respectable clip in the NBA later on as he develops. So liking to
yeah,
pick more and more. Who would have thought watching a player gives you a better
right,
opinion on
right. All right. Last thing we'll hit on is the CP3 to the Warriors trade, which like came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it really at all. Um, an interesting trade that I don't think I agree with if I'm on the Warriors side. Because yeah, Poole, gets a ton of hatred. I feel like he does just kind of his personality is pretty easy to root for. He got punched, kind of has like a punchable like face and attitude and stuff. It's like I feel like people don't really take him seriously, but um, I think he can develop into a pretty good NBA player. I mean, he's got a deadly shot, super shifty, super quick, gets to the rim, finishes at the rim,
Mm.
can shoot free throws, can shoot the mid range, is a pretty good passer also. Like, yeah, he turns the ball over a lot on some stupid things, but like when he does make, the correct read, it's a pretty good pass. Obviously the
Yeah.
defense will always be a concern. But at this stage of his career, I think it's a concern for CP3 as well, which is interesting. Like
Yeah.
I don't really think that they really upgraded too much defensively, at least. Offensively, we'll see how CP3 and Curry play alongside each other. That could also be a recipe for disaster in the backcourt. You got a guy who's 38, another guy who's 34, trying to guard Jamal Murray. I don't know. I don't know. But
No, yeah, I was at work, was on my lunch break, and I got a Bleacher Report notification from I think Jake Fisher, and it was Warriors are actively taking calls on Jordan Poole. And I was like, oh, yeah, like that's
yeah,
expected. It's been in the rumors the entire offseason. Like, this is what happens. Like, if he gets traded, it wouldn't have been a shock to me because of how much it had been talked about. I was like, oh, okay. And then literally, like,
it's
I'm
like
not even kidding. 2 minutes later, the notification came out that Chris Paul is going to go. I was like, that. Like, never have I ever thought that Chris Paul was going to be on the Warriors. Like that. Like Chris Paul and Steph Curry being on the same team has never once crossed my mind as a pairing where I'm like, you know what? If those guys played together, that would be like you always think about like, oh, what if LeBron and KD play together, or if LeBron and Steph play together? LeBron and CP3, like that's never been a combo where I'm like, man, that could be pretty good. I think I think he's gonna come off the bench. Honestly, like I look at the team, like if you anticipate Draymond coming back, which I think this was like a precursor to that. I think they chose Draymond over Jordan Poole. I think that's what this trade was for. Um, which you can debate it how you want. I don't know. Long term, I wouldn't do that, but in the short term, that's probably
yeah.
the right
I
choice.
guess I guess now that you say that, like coming off the bench, like I understand it a lot better with the playoffs. Like you just don't want Jordan Poole's mistakes out there. Like you know what you're gonna
Yeah,
get from CP3, and he's not gonna lose the game for you or anything. I just don't like this. Just seems like such a move that'll just be like it'll only be this year pretty much.
yeah,
And then it
yeah.
seems like
It's
CP3 like
weird.
could
It's
just
really
be out the
weird.
door and
Yeah,
after this
and
year.
like they don't have their first round pick next year anyway. It was to Memphis. Now it's Boston's. Uh, like they don't have it anyway. So like going all in next year is fine. If this doesn't work out, it's not like you're gonna like you'll be fine. Uh, so I don't know. To me, like I don't like know what to like. I've tried to like think about it. It's been like 24 hours, and I just like can't think of a reason why this makes the Warriors better. Like if anything, they're just like the same, and their bench would be better. Their bench was horrendous last season, and Jordan Poole when he started was really really good. He was 20 a game on almost 50-49. Like he was very very good. But off the bench, he was really really bad. And when they were healthy, their starting lineup was great with Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Looney. But that bench unit was what killed them. So I guess this way, like you expect to play Kaminga, you expect to play Moody. May depending on what happens with DiVincenzo, I know he's got a player option. If he comes back, we'll see if he plugs in there, and then you can figure out what to do with your center position, or just play 9 and rotate that way. Like I would, probably feel more comfortable with CP3 running the bench than Jordan Poole, but
Yeah.
like I don't know, Jordan Poole was so good in 2022. Like he was so good, and I just think that one bad year where his role like changed like 3 or 4 times throughout the season. And he started off on the bench. Like, well, first he gets punched by his teammate, and no repercussions come out of it. So he's thinking, okay, what did I do wrong? So he's in his head to start the season the entire time. Then Wiggins goes away for 2 months. We still don't really know what happened with that. And he's starting and he's playing well. Then Wiggins comes back and then pulls off the bench again, and he's not playing. He's playing like it. His role changed so many times. Obviously, he's going to struggle a little bit. Um, I would have stuck with him for another year. I would have tried to make another move to go get a center rather than go get a point guard, especially one who's 38 and who can't stay healthy for a full season and who has not been able to show up in the playoffs. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. Like I'm trying to like think of an angle that Mike Dunleavy was thinking. I can't think of one, honestly.
Yeah, I honestly just think it's like just experience off the bench. And I feel like next year they'll be a better team, I guess, than they were this year. Like I feel like they got 1 year to just go all in. And I think they'll be a good team next year. Um but yeah, for the future, I don't really understand. And for the Wizards side's like side, I think it's pretty good. Like you look at the Beal
Yeah,
trade and it ends in Poole and a bunch of second round picks pretty much. And then obviously um
yeah,
you get Tyus Jones also, and you can make a bunch more moves too. Like I wonder if they trade Jones or Morris.
yeah,
Um and obviously you let Poole develop in a place where like he can make mistakes and stuff. Like they're not a competing team and
yeah,
they don't have to be perfect all the time and be under all this pressure all the time. So I think it's good for him. Good gamble, good risk by the Wizards to see if Poole can pan out. Um, and so yeah, I mean the Wizards doing pretty well so far
yeah,
with this new front office.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the Beal trade a little bit, and we said like at least his front office has a direction. Last front office, they didn't know what they had. They tried to just do too much with too little. This front office knows like, hey, we don't have a superstar. We don't have a guy who can be a number one on a championship team. We're tearing it down. We're going to rebuild. Um,
Yeah,
I think they did a good job because the Bradley Beal no trade clause really screwed them over in terms of the return that they could get. Um, but part of that Bradley Beal trade is you get Jordan Poole and you get a first round pick. So you get a building block and you get a pick that's far in the future to where it might be really, really bad because of where
yeah,
Golden State might be at that point.
yeah. That pick is
Like
going to be
Steph,
interesting.
yeah, like Steph's probably going to be really bad, or either bad or retired. Like he's going
Yeah.
to be gone.
Because
Quite
what
probably going
is
to be
it?
gone.
Is it it's 2030 or what?
2030, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Steph will be 41. I don't think it'll
Oh
be.
yeah, like I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
he's going to be retired at that point. Uh, so we'll see. Like that's a good pick to have in your back pocket. You still own all of yours. Like that's a good like Brooklyn. They lucked into Mikal Bridges being good because they're like, okay, now we have someone who we could potentially build around because they don't really own any of their picks because of the Harden trade. Like they have like the one every other year and they traded a few as well. So like they're kind of screwed if they decide to go into full rebuild. At least Washington owns their picks so that they can, if they're bad, they have their bad ones.
yeah,
Um, and the Porzingis thing was also kind of a no trade clause. Like you had a player option. If the Boston thing fell through, he's declining it. He's walking for nothing. So at least you get some seconds. You get Gallinari, you get Muscala, you get guys who you can flip for more seconds or potentially late first, depending on how they play. So I think that they've done a as the Beal trade finalized and as all this stuff is starting to come together. I have switched the stance. They've done a good job with what they had. Um, Obviously, it's a disappointing return to not get something back for your best player that you could really use. But if Jordan Poole is able to pan out, and this is a perfect situation for a young player with a ton of talent like him to develop in, where he can, like you said, play through his mistakes and mold into the best version of himself. That's a potential building block that you could, either trade to go get a superstar or trade a superstar to pair with him,
yeah,
depending on your other picks. So I think that this is a much better job that they've done than I originally had thought. So honestly,
yeah.
good job for the Wizards.
No, I agree. Um, I think they'll cap it off. Not much more unless you got anything else. Um, don't think there's much else to hit on. NFL's been quiet. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
trying to I'm trying to think. This is like the most dead period for NFL.
yeah.
Like there's
For
literally
sports, really.
hmm?
For sports in general, this is the most
Yeah,
dead.
for sports in general. It's like the dog days of the MLB where everyone's just kind of going through the motions until the All-Star break and then no football, no training camp, no preseason, nothing. It's OTAs for like a week and then everyone's back on vacation until July. Uh, this is a good part about the Nuggets winning the championship as well is that at least we had something to like look forward to the whole time. Like last year, it felt so offseason felt so long to just waiting and waiting and waiting. Season ended so early, so like the draft felt so long away. Draft's a week and a half after the season ends
I
now.
know, that's crazy.
So weird. It just happened so fast.
Free
But
agency
yeah,
starts
I
when?
think hmm?
Free agency starts when? When? Wednesday?
July 1st, technically. I think
Oh,
everything is official like the third or the fourth. But I think the first is when the legal tampering period begins.
yeah.
So, um, Yeah, about a week until that starts. We'll see what happens with Bruce Brown. He did. He declined it. We are like coming back or not. He was going to decline it. Uh, we'll see what happens. Oh, that was the other thing I want to talk about. I find out one more thing that I remember. We say it at the end of every episode. Unless you got anything else to say, I do have something else to say. Um, Dallas made a couple of moves that I thought were really interesting. They traded the Davis Bertans contract, um, and they still got their guy in Derek Lively. So they traded down 2 picks and got off the Bertans contract. That opened up the full MLE for them. So that's a team that I could see Bruce Brown going to because they are going to be a good team next year. They're going to be somebody who can be in playoff contention, potentially championship contention based on how Kyrie and Luka play. And he's going to be a high level role player for them if he does go there. And he's able to get the most money from them than any other contender or any other playoff team, really, because of the new CBA. So that was a move that I was like storing in mind. I'm like, okay, they could potentially do that. But they also did get Richaun Holmes, and his contract is pretty big. So I don't know how that affects it. But I know when they made the trade, they opened up the full MLE. So they could offer that to Bruce Brown for a year.
That's pretty good because I bet on Derek Lively to go top 10 because I thought he would go 10 to the Mavericks. And they were coming up, so I'm like, all right. But then like I was paying attention to like the tweets from Shams and stuff. And he would always take like a 7 to 9 minute break, I feel like, before each pick to call one out. And this one was pushing like 10, 11, 12 minutes. So I'm like, what is going on here? Because they're gonna cook some trade up because the Thunder aren't gonna take him, the Magic aren't gonna take him, or whoever had to. I know they traded with the Thunder weren't gonna take him. So I'm like, bro, they better not be trading down, even though that would be the smart move. And then of course they trade down, but it is a smart move, as you said, getting off of that contract. But I was just in pain, and then he goes to the Mavericks. I'm like, I knew where he was going, but of course they had to trade down. So yeah, that sucks. But that would be a good spot for Bruce Brown because really the only other teams that can afford him are like, bottom of the lottery teams, the worst teams in the league. So yeah, Bruce Brown to Dallas, maybe.
Stupid fly in my room for like 3 days and I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the one thing that I was storing in mind. Bruce Brown in Dallas could potentially be the one spot that he could go to. But I don't know. It depends because they still got to bring back Irving. I think they still have to also bring back Christian Wood. So we'll see what they do. But that's the one team that I would keep in mind if I was a Denver fan. So yeah,
all right.
That now I'm good.
All right. Good point. Wraps up the episode. Thank you guys for watching. We'll probably be back. As we said, it's pretty dead. Like maybe after free agency day one.
Whenever something happens, we'll be
back. Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Peace.